up? Welcome to Night Shift. Jeff Sherrod, Kyle Nash, Eric Lopez with you. Nick Porcelli and Bryson Turner will join us a little bit later. We got lots to talk about. News about JRP. Timmy McClain is going to start for UCF football this Saturday against, thankfully, Villanova. UCF's lone FCS opponent this year, so we'll talk about that. We also got a lot of news to talk about with soccer and volleyball. Both soccer teams making their Big 12 debuts. In fact, women's soccer played earlier tonight. We're recording this Thursday night, September 14th. Got their first. Here's the answer to your trivia question, guys. Which UCF team won UCF's Big 12 conference debut? And that would be the UCF women's soccer team over West Virginia 4-2 earlier today. Men's soccer plays West Virginia. They're in the top 10 nationally. We'll talk about that. Hear from Scott Calabrese. We'll also hear from Jenny Mowers. Her team is actually out in the Midwest. They're playing Purdue in Illinois this weekend, so we'll be updating that as they're actually playing right now against Purdue as we speak, as we record this. But let's start with talking about football. So the good news, UCF finds a way to win on the road, Kyle and Eric, at Boise State, a school that had not lost a home opener since the turn of the century. And listen, I know UCF left a lot of points on the board. 2 dropped interceptions that directly resulted, or 2 dropped touchdowns, I should say, that directly resulted in interceptions. That's 14 points right there. The 4th and 1 stop in the red zone, you give up at least 3. It's 17 points right off the board. But Colton Boomer, 4 for 4, including tying the school record 55-yarder with Ed O'Brien, plus the winner, walk-off winner. First UCF kicker to kick a game-winning field goal in the final 10 seconds of a game since Michael Torres did it back in 2006 at Marshall. Kyle, you might remember that one. That was the Matthew McConaughey game.
I sure do. Yeah, who was Marshall indeed?
Yeah. But hey, listen. Before I get to that, I'll start with you, Kyle.
Yeah.
The way I view this, and I want to know how the two of you guys feel about this, is a road win is a road win. Style points don't matter. You come away with a W on the road, especially when you're traveling that far away, you take it and run out the door, no?
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll talk about what really is the biggest loss from that game a bit later. But listen, overall, I know it's a silly argument that when teams that you hate use it, you don't like it. But if you can go out and have this bad a game and have a series of unfortunate events that puts itself together in such a fashion when even Jim Carrey would go, oh my God, that would be a whole situation that you should lose that game, and they find a way to do it. Not only does Colton Boomer twice set a personal best, by the way, I want to mention that too as part of it. Because that 50-yarder was his personal best until he did the 55 to tie the historical record there for the program. And it wasn't just that they overcame the mistakes, which is obviously a huge part of it. I really felt like there were elements where the coaches were coaching less panicked. The players didn't play panicked. The offensive line, Eric, I know you have heard me talk about it so much going into last season, but to see what I saw against a group that I thought looked pretty damn stout against Washington, even though they got obliterated, they were good up front. I made this point last week, and the fact that it was just a true battle in the trenches and that UCF was winning that battle in a lot of places, not everything, but you're not going to win every one, unfortunately, the 3 biggest, ticks I would put against the offensive line all happen to happen on 3rd down. That is what it is. But man, just what an outing all the way around. And I know there's going to be a cloud that's over this that we'll talk about later, but I really wish I could have spent more of this episode talking about what this offensive line did in this game, Jeff.
Wow.
That was, yeah.
That's high praise there. So I got full disclosure. I didn't watch the game live. I was calling UCF men's soccer against Brown. So I was getting updates from the control room. And then I'm following the Slack and our group chat where everybody's flipping out, freaking out. Kyle's got to try to calm everybody down. The poor guy.
I had some moments of
although you kind of freaked out yourself too.
Yeah.
Way of following the game. I actually the last 7-8 minutes on the radio with Mark and Gary, and then to Bryson's credit, Bryson warned me because he knew I was. He asked me, "Am I going to watch the game again?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to watch the game this weekend." He's like, "I'm going to warn you, you're going to be annoyed," and he was right. For many reasons. Well, it
doesn't take much, to be honest.
One of them, though, was if there was no scoring bug, like if we went back to the 1980s where there was no score on the TV screen and you just watched the game, you would have think UCF would have been up by 30 points. Like they dominated the game.
Well, at one point, I think I counted, Eric, they should have been up like 30-15, I think, at one point with all the points they left up on the board.
Right. And they just had bad red zone, 2 bad drops that literally would have led to touchdowns, was led into interceptions. They went on a 4th and 1 where McDowell went the wrong way, went left instead of going right. So they left a lot of points on the board. That is concerning moving forward because if you do that in the Big 12, you're going to lose. But I actually rewatching the game, Kyle. I agree with you. I think the big positive is this. I think this offensive line is way better than last year. Like,
and Kyle, you were worried about it after Kent State a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw.
So what changed?
Man, they just got tighter on the inside. I don't know whether it's all play calling schemes. Coach Malzahn mentioned that there was some stuff that Kent State did that they weren't exactly ready for. I mean, how much could you really prepare for a team that you don't have a ton of film on, that's basically rebooted itself in week 1? You had guys that had been in their position for only a week and a half, according to coach, Bula Schmidt, for example, being only a guard for a week and a half. Just there was a whole lot more unknowns, I think, from this game to last. Looking at the film from Washington, they were able to say, hey, listen, whoa, these guys are pretty good up front. We have to make adjustments. And we said at some point in the preseason that the biggest thing that this group has is football, the biggest upgrade. And I think it was according to Lukahi Paoli, but don't quote me, but the biggest thing that he thought was better about this line than last year's was just overall football intelligence. Jeff, that shined in order to make that improvement happen in this game against Boise State.
Current opponents adjusted. All right. Kent State, Boise State. UCF right now is number 1 in the country in total offense and number 1 in the country in rushing offense. 323.5 yards per game, 626 total. I get it. It's the competition. And it's, it doesn't get that much better this weekend with Villanova. Now, before we talk about that, the big news for this game, John Rhys Plumlee, 2 plays before the game-winning field goal. I think we've all seen it by now. The slide, his right leg gets caught in a very awkward angle. He also gets hit in the side of the head. I can't believe they didn't call targeting on that, but whatever. You saw the next play too, Kyle, right?
Yeah.
He handed off to RJ Harvey, and you saw him just immediately hobble, and it was bad. He ended up being helped back to the locker room. Word from Gus Malzahn is JRP is gone.
Well, let's hear it from him.
Oh, you got it. We do have it. All right, let's hear Coach Malzahn updating us on JRP right here.
Update on John Rhys. He had injury late in that game, took a pretty good hit. He's going to be out this week, and he'll be out for a few weeks. The good thing is he doesn't need surgery. He will be back. I'll keep you updated as you go, but we're going to go with Timmy McClain this week. Timmy's a guy that we think very highly of. He's had a really good fall camp. In practice on Tuesday and Wednesdays, he's got really equal reps almost to John Rhys, so he's ready to go. We have a lot of confidence in him, a guy that has played and started football games, as a true freshman. So really feel good about Timmy taking over for that. Dylan Risk will be our number 2 guy. I'm really excited for him too. He had a very good fall camp too. And like I told our team, JRP is one of the better quarterbacks in all of college football. So when you lose somebody like that, everybody else has got to raise their level. And that's our challenge for that. I'm confident we'll do that.
Feels a little vague to me. A few weeks. Now, Personally, I don't know how JRP avoided busting every ligament in his knee on that play. The guy is he's the plastic man as far as I'm concerned. They're saying he managed to avoid surgery. But here we go. Timmy McClain is back in. Now, a little bit on the McClain file. Obviously, we all know his history. Won a state title at Seminole. Wanted to come to UCF reportedly, but was not recruited here. Instead went to USF. Started at 11 out of USF's 12 games in 2021 as a true freshman, along with his high school teammate, Jimmy Horn, who's now in Colorado playing for Deion Sanders, by the way. Let anyone care to guess the last time he actually started a game? Oh, wait, you don't have to. It was right here at UCF. It was the Thanksgiving weekend game. Dadgum near beat UCF in that game. In one of the many heart attack moments that we've had, the 17-13 game. Kyle, you're giving me a face. What?
It's just you putting all that together. Like, I mean, I knew his last start with USF. That's cool. Imagine if the dude that got beat by the Holy Holler connects with Alec Holler in this game. It's gonna blow my mind.
Well, remember last year he didn't play because he was at UCF and was on the scout team last year. Skill set similar to JRP. He's taller, he's slightly taller, he's lankier, left-handed. Kyle, what does this change for this team?
The truth is we don't really know a whole lot about that yet, or what it changes. Because here's the thing. This is what I thought was interesting. What did you notice with Tommy Castellanos last year in garbage time versus what you saw with Timmy McClain in Kent State? He actually threw the ball. He actually threw the football. Yes, Jeff.
Tommy was just running everywhere.
There you go. That speaks volumes. Might as well have been running the damn wishbone with Castellanos back there. And we had said many times on this show that that Castellanos wasn't ready. Bryson makes the great point. There's him adjusting and guiding people too as well. This is a more cerebral quarterback compared to Tommy Castellanos, or maybe a guy that's just ready to start a game, unlike Tommy Castellanos was. So this is all good stuff. Moreover, adding to his time here, he's now also been exposed to Darren Hinshaw. Perhaps his technique has had a chance to get improved. And listen, here's what's going to happen. In case you don't know already, you probably should. They're going to come out and try to run the football. Duh. All McClain has to do is hit that big ball when it comes time to do play action, and he's got some good receivers to do it. Here, newsflash, Kobe Hudson, Javon Baker, athletes. So I think there's plenty of opportunity, and it's his ability to manage that game and keep the chains moving that'll show us what the drop-off really is. It's hard to evaluate in this game. In fairness, he'll have jitters. The opponent is only so-so, yada, yada, yada. But I'll put it this way. What I'll be watching most closely is the placement of his passes when he does throw the ball, and how many turnovers does he have.
Eric, I know you're as big a fan of playing FCS teams as I am. But
hey, look, I don't know.
Worked better, right?
No, you're right. Although, listen, I never underestimate a Jay Wright coached Villanova team. All right, let me just first say that.
All right, come on.
I give you credit, Eric. You haven't used.
Thank you. Thank you, Kyle.
You haven't used the S word yet. That's what I'm giving you credit for.
No, look, it's a good deal. Kyle's right, 100%. I don't think this is as big of an adjustment as people think. Number one, I think Timmy McClain will be way more prepared than any of the quarterbacks were last year, because I spoke to Darren Hinshaw about this exact scenario on media day. And he talked about how every quarterback on this roster would have to be ready to play in case they're needed, and they would have a package of plays because of what happened last year. So I think this staff is not surprised by it. Timmy McClain actually has experience starting. It's not like this is his first ever start.
Right.
And again, this is a run-first offense anyway. This team is going to be successful whether it runs the football or not. They're not going to air it out 40, 50 times. If they are, they're going to lose those games. So I think this is the right team for him to do. Now, the receivers need to help him, Kyle. You didn't forget to mention that. Yes, they're talented guys. Don't drop the ball.
Oh, well, okay. The reason why I don't, Eric, is listen, those I think were true anomalies. I don't see that happening like that ever again. I just don't.
I will say this. After the 2 drops, both Kobe Hudson and Javon Baker, you could tell, made it a clear point that they were not going to drop anything that came their way the rest of the game. And they came up with big plays later in the game, too.
Heck, Jeff, before Javon had his drop, he made some pretty spectacular catches, too, in the early part of the game. I mean, these guys got it. Man, listen, I'm telling you, series of unfortunate events. I know it sounds like I'm making excuses, but listen,
yes,
I know what anomalies look like.
You obviously didn't take UCF in 3.5, clearly. They don't, because they don't want to hear that excuse. But in all seriousness, here's what Timmy McClain has to avoid. Don't be Josh Allen. And what I mean by that is Josh Allen tried to be a hero on Monday night for the Bills when there was not necessary. The Bills should have walked away with that game if he just, play a concern. Don't turn the ball over. What did Josh Allen do? Turn the ball over and give the Jets hope. So I think that's one thing that Timmy McClain, it's the same what we've said about John Rhys Plumlee, in fairness. Whoever the quarterback is, protect the football. I think this team's going to move the ball on the ground. They're going to move it in. Just protect the football. And I think that's Timmy McClain's job. And that's something I'm going to see. We'll look forward to seeing how he does that against Villanova and how many games he gets.
Quick add in too. I know we're used to a life when one quarterback gets hurt and then Mikey Keene comes in and he's a completely different style of quarterback compared to the previous guy. Mikey Keene was a better fit backing up Dylan Gabriel than he ever was John Rhys Plumlee.
Agreed.
McClain is a more direct adjustment skill set wise. Granted, is he the athlete that Castellanos is? No, but I think he's still a pretty solid athlete. He demonstrated that. Is he a lottery ticket like John Rhys Plumlee is? No, but he could still use his legs to get those first downs, keep chains moving, and enough to keep the run game viable to get that balance that we've been promised by Darren Hinshaw.
And I think one thing that's underrated, Timmy McClain, I think, caught a break last year by redshirting or by having to redshirt.
100%.
Because that experience at USF, that team, that entire program is such a train wreck that it could have been like a David Carr situation over there. But he was able to get out of there.
Lawrence situation with Urban Meyer. I can meet you there.
Fair. But took the year off, came back to UCF, back home, reset himself. He's now, by college years, a junior, even though he's now a redshirt sophomore. I think that this.
Well, look, and this
sets up better than people think.
Well, here's the thing: there's an audition for him to be the starter next year.
True.
If he does very well, I think it's because I think next year. I mean, obviously, it's hard to predict a year from now, but let's say JRP moves on. I could see this being, if Timmy McClain plays well, it could be him versus Dylan Risk for the quarterback job. He might have the upper hand. If he struggles, then maybe this coaching staff considers going a different direction. So I think this is an audition for him. And again, how many weeks is he going to play? Who knows? You look at the schedule, Villanova, that's a winnable game with him. At Kansas State, tough game there. Host Baylor. Baylor has quarterback injuries themselves, so they don't want to hear
Baylor's a hot mess, man.
I'll tell you this, that Baylor game's a great test for him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. So assuming that Plumlee doesn't come back for Baylor, so I think there's 2 dates where I think Plumlee we might see. We could, if he heals quickly from whatever the injury is, I could, Baylor could be an option. I don't see that either. I think the realistic one is I think you see Plumlee after the bye against Oklahoma.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I think that's the more accurate one. So if that's the case, then you're Timmy McClain, you beat Villanova. You split Kansas, the Kansas games, Kansas State, Kansas. You beat Baylor. I mean, you're kind of where you thought you would be anyway. So that's the job that he has, is to help them to do that. And again, he has experience, which that is not to be taken lightly in today's college football, where every quarterback jumps at a moment to go somewhere else where they don't play. So I think, and again, I really trust Darren Hinshaw. I think these guys are prepared, and the scheme will not change. And I think that fits Timmy.
Well, and Elo, like, even if they go 2-2, by beating Baylor and Villanova and losing the other Kansas games, I think fans will be cool with that too, right? Who had 5-2 at this point in the season? I know I didn't.
With your 2 losses on the road against 2 pretty good teams, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as we head out and we finish at the Pop-Tart Bowl, Kyle, like I've always predicted before the year.
Some notes on Villanova, by the way. Obviously, FCS.
Jay Wright's not the coach.
Jay Wright is not the coach.
Oh, all right.
By the way, he's not the coach of basketball either. In case anyone forgot, Villanova is receiving votes in the FCS top 25. They're in the Colonial Athletic Association for football, which is kind of the SEC of FCS, if you will. They were picked 7th in the CAA. This is a league that has like William and Mary, Richmond, Delaware, North Carolina A&T actually is in this league too. So if you're looking for, if you know anything about FCS football, you know that some of those squads are pretty good. They have won a national championship as recently as 2009. And by the way, here's an interesting thing I found out. This is for you, Kyle. Villanova was a Division 1A independent until 1980.
Oh, wow.
They then ended the football program. 5 years later, under alumni pressure, they reinstated it in 1985 as a 1AA independent. Their head coach, by the way, when they won the FCS National Championship in 2009 was Andy Talley, who retired from Villanova in 2016 after 31 years there. So, So, by the way, they won their first 2 games against some really fun opponents, Lehigh and Colgate. So, hey, they're coming off a win against the toothpaste company. Okay.
I mean, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm down. So no Jay Wright on the field?
No Jay Wright whatsoever. So, yeah, I know you're disappointed, Eric.
Kyle, how about that social media doctors that thought JRP was done for the year? They were flipping out on NightShift.
Well, listen, I tried.
Wow, they were wrong. I'm shocked.
I tried.
So many people with medical degrees.
Hey, listen. Oh man, no. Listen, it's obviously unfortunate, but of course, if we haven't said it already, best wishes to John Rhys Plumlee.
Yeah,
yes.
Who you could argue played his best game of his Knight career, like his PFF.
Well, I think it's close. That was his best passing performance as a Knight, no question.
Yeah, overall he was fantastic. It's such a freaking bummer, man, unbelievable. But if anyone is determined to come back, it's JRP, right? I don't think anyone's arguing that. This isn't a situation where he might be angling to go somewhere else. No, he's in here for the long haul.
There are similarities in personality that way between him and KZ with the determination. So, and I'm not trying to say they're the same player. I mean, like that determination.
Oh, quick, Eric, let's clip that one and put it on X real quick. Kyle Nash says.
There we go.
All right, so kickoff.
Phone blowed up by JP Gilbert in a matter of time. 6:30
p.m. Elo's got his column up about the TV side. This is a really good one too, Elo. ESPN Plus Big 12 now for this week. UCF got their time slot for the Big 12 opener at Kansas State. Not that great.
No, 8 o'clock FS1 again. It's just the third.
I mean, prime time.
Yeah. It's prime time, but it ain't Deion Sanders prime time.
Who's calling that game on FS1 in prime time?
We don't know yet, but they probably won't be in the building. I'm going to go on a limb on that. They're probably going to be. They're going to be in a Charlotte studio or LA studio or a New York studio, just like they last 2 games. I'm telling the truth. No, it's been interesting.
That doesn't mean I have to like it. Okay,
nobody likes it. It's been interesting though, because as I wrote this weekend, Houston's making their Big 12 debut, hosting TCU. That's going to be on regular Fox.
That's on the Big Fox. Yeah.
Prime time, baby. BYU. Is that
at Houston?
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
The Big 12 is in Houston right now. They're celebrating. They're having their Hall of Fame award. It's a big event. Swimsuit models, great. So That's what they're doing. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm not mad at it. I just had to laugh, bro.
So Houston's that's on Fox. That might be that could be a Tim Brando type game. And
or Gus.
Cincinnati the following weekend is hosting Oklahoma on Big Noon Kickoff. There's a good chance they're going to host the Big Noon Kickoff show and have Gus and Joe Klatt in that.
And rightly so.
Yeah, which is a big deal. BYU is going to be on ESPN for their debut at Kansas, 3:30. That's the slot I thought UCF Kansas they would get. They didn't. And then they're going to host Cincinnati. Their home opener is going to be on a Friday night on ESPN. So UCF is still the only team of the newbies. As Bryce and I are very depressed right now. Well, hang in there, Bryson. We'll get to why he's depressed later. Oh, wow. I've never seen Bryson's hair that messed up. Anyway, so BYU.
Bryson, put the scissors down.
BYU is going to – UCF's the only team of the new schools in the Big 12 that have not been on a national broadcast network. They've been on FS1, ESPN Plus this week. We'll see what happens with the Baylor game.
Let me ask you a question, though. Do you think the JRP injury had anything to do with that?
No, that was
we were going to be on FS1 no matter what.
Yeah, they were going to be on FS1. I mean, that was announced before that I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Oh, it was announced before, wasn't it?
Was it? I thought it was after.
I thought it was after.
There was rumors. There was rumors. I don't know if it was official.
I'll say this, Elo, and tell me if I'm wrong. But is it possible, like you had mentioned, the 3:30 slot was one that you thought they'd be considered?
Yeah, ESPN one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it possible that they saw that and said they were close on which game, the one they have there or UCF? When John Rhys Plumlee happened, it's very possible that locked in the decision, right?
I don't know. I think it has to do with more. First of all, I think they value the BYU mark. BYU draws.
They do.
I think they drew.
And they draw national, too.
It's my ignorance there. It's hard for me to picture that, but I hear what you're telling me.
Cincinnati, Oklahoma. The reason that game's on Big Noon Kick is because of Oklahoma. It's the big brand. And if you're Fox, you're trying to get as much of Oklahoma, Texas before they bolt. I think the thing that's going against UCF is they don't play Texas at all, and they don't play Oklahoma until later in the year. So that might hurt them a little bit as well. I'm curious to see. I think it's too early. We'll see what they get for Baylor. Do they get a good draw for Baylor, good network channel, good slot, or do they get another FS1 game again? I don't know. And the reason I bring this up, I mean, people think it's a big joke, but if you look at it, you want to be on, first of all, this is obvious. You want to be on the broadcast networks, Fox, CBS, even NBC, ABC. Those are your priority. Then ESPN, ESPN2, and now you're fighting between FS1 and ESPNU, really. Like a lot of people are like, remember, Jeff, we used to get this constant complaint about when UCF started being on ESPN Plus. Oh, why are they on Plus? Like, nobody watches Plus. I got news for you. ESPN Plus draws similar numbers than what FS1 and ESPNU does in football.
Yeah.
It really is.
The only people who are watching are the people who are fans of that team. You're not getting
it's diehard, right? You're not getting the traffic, right? No, and what's interesting is a lot of people mock the ACC. Kyle, I'm sure, was one of them.
Hi.
Because some of their games were on CW, and everybody mocked it. Well, what happened? CW did a big number for the Cincinnati Maryland game, and one of the reasons
broadcast network.
Bingo, exactly. I'm going to use my mom as an example. My mom doesn't care about college football, but she's the majority of these people that loves to go up and down the channel with the remote control. What are the first channels that she likes to go through? All the broadcast network channels. And CW is one of those channels that crosses. So that helps. And it's easier to find than a Fox Sports 1 channel is. That's kind of the whole point of it.
No, and hey, listen, at the end of the day, I still think it's funny that, nobody wants the ACC enough to get them off the CW, but your point is still valid.
Well, I would argue. I will say.
Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think CW, I would argue, is an upgrade over Bally, which is where the ACC games, that package used to be.
Oh, no. Well, remember, Bally's also a cable network.
Bally's also bankrupt as hell.
But regardless, I mean, bankrupt or not, that's where their channel is, right?
Right.
CW, right. You made the case on Cincinnati Pitt Saturday night, Eric. You know how many viewers that drew?
Go for it.
617,000.
That's
nearly
this one did. Wow.
It nearly doubled the UCF game, and it nearly outrated Maryland Charlotte on NBC, which gets more airtime. So network TV still matters from that standpoint. I think for UCF, they're getting short sticked on that because of that. And so we'll see if that balances itself out. Some of it is beyond their control, but it's clear that BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston have gotten beneficial TV slots so far than UCF. Will that change? I don't know. But remember, it's different than it was in the American. Remember, the American, Jeff, we used to get one of the top 2 slots in the American. Mm-hmm. Now you're fighting for that slot. And even that Kansas State game, they're going to struggle to – I mean, like our good friend Matt Michelle's like, oh, they'll draw way better numbers. Don't be so sure about that because there's one of the things with college football now is it's fragmented. There's games all the time. And all the broadcast networks have jumped on the primetime thing. And one of those games that weekend is Ohio State Notre Dame, which will be one of the most watched
primetime
football games of the year on NBC.
Yeah.
So, and you know, and I know that Andrew Glukov's going to poke and watch a little bit of that game. So contribute to those numbers. So hopefully I'm really intrigued. On Monday, we're going to find out what the Baylor game is from a time slot in a network. I'm very interested to see what they get assigned to that.
Let me ask you, Eric. I'm sorry, Kyle. I just want to ask Eric this. I want to get his take on this real quick.
No problem.
Which UCF game do you think, Eric, is going to be the first one to air on ESPN or higher, as in one of the broadcast networks?
Ooh.
If you had to guess,
Kyle, go ahead. Go ahead,
Kyle.
Oklahoma State.
Oh, I think it's Oklahoma.
I think it was Oklahoma.
I think I've gone on record. I think Oklahoma will be the most watched UCF game nationally of the whole year.
That could very well be.
That being said, I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Baylor. I could see Baylor getting a good slot. We'll see. I know Baylor.
If Baylor keeps struggling, bro, that's going to get relegated fast, and that's the biggest problem. Right? Like,
do they have a game this week?
Not in UCF's hands. It's kind of in Baylor's.
Do they have this? Yeah. Do they have it? Well, what's funny though is you say that what ABC did, they put Baylor in primetime against Texas. The same go up against Ohio State, Notre Dame, because basically ABC is punting. They're basically saying we concede that we're going to lose to Notre Dame, Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, so the primetime game.
Texas teams.
So seriously, that's what ABC did. They punted on that game. So don't assume just because Baylor's struggling that they won't get a better quote slot. It just means different things. Like I wouldn't be shocked if that's a 3:30 Fox game or ESPN game because it's it's just kind of like
but you're talking about like whoever does tune in prime time to watch Texas Baylor isn't tuning in to watch Baylor.
No, it's just an alternate option, and
right. Hey, watch Texas, Quinn Ewers,
correct, and that's the thing is
they're assuming that Ohio State blows out Notre Dame, which I don't think will actually.
That's the other. Or Ohio State blows out. One of them blows out the other. They're kind of like we'll take the scraps.
All right, how about this? Let's do a little quick exercise where you, Jeff, and Kyle, you both get to be TV executives.
Okay.
Jeff, you will get the first pick. You can be either ESPN or Fox. Kyle, you'll get second pick. I'm going to read you the games that weekend that are available, okay, for the Big 12. Because this is how it works, folks. This is how Fox and ESPN do this every week behind the scenes. The difference is we don't.
Fox is the broadcast network, so that's first pick, right?
We're just going to assume they have the first pick. We don't know that for a fact. We're just playing the game just for humor. Here are the options you guys have. Okay. Cincinnati BYU's off the board because that's a Friday night ESPN game.
Right.
So you get first pick, Jeff. Here are your options. Kansas at Texas, Iowa State at Oklahoma, Houston at Texas Tech, Baylor UCF. What's the best game on the board there? From
first
who
one.
would you pick?
Texas.
You're going Kansas, Texas. You're riding the Texas hot. All right, Kyle, you get second pick.
And you had
plus don't forget Kansas beat them last year, and there's
sure.
So
Kansas got exciting quarterback. Yeah, no, fair.
And did you say it was Iowa State and Oklahoma?
Yes.
And if I'm losing the opportunity to air Oklahoma in the future, I'm milking that. Especially
and I think you too.
That's where I disagree, Kyle. I would take UCF.
I don't see that because from the executive's perspective, it's Baylor who's struggling and UCF to that point who's been slinging cupcakes in all their wins and hasn't shown anybody anything. Right.
So you're going Oklahoma. You're going Oklahoma, Iowa State with your second pick, Kyle.
And remember how notorious UCF is with those types still.
Well, let me ask you this. Oh, wait, they're going to decide this after the Villanova game, right? Not after the Kansas State game.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, we'll know by Monday.
Could they put it into that short window?
They could. They could. They usually like to wait till later in the year. They don't want to burn that early. They like to burn that in November, but they could. In theory,
but it could be a situation where it's like, let's see what UCF does against Kansas State.
That's called the 6-day window, which they like to use a lot later in the year. But this little exercise for the audience this is what Fox and ESPN behind the scenes do. And it's going to be interesting moving forward because remember, ESPN ABC is going to have the entire SEC package next year with the ACC. So the Big 12 is competing with that. And then Fox has the Big 10 package, which is their baby. So that's what the Big 12 is fighting against. So we'll see if you guys are right or not. When we see the schedule come out Monday with the TV slots, you'll be able to tell who was the first pick and who wasn't. And so that's how the exercise works.
Interesting.
See, at least now you see where I'm coming from.
I'll tell you what. You know what? They should televise that conference call.
Oh, it'd be fun, man.
That would be a blast.
I do think, by the way, I kind of agree. I think what the networks usually do is they split Texas and Oklahoma. Very rarely is Texas and Oklahoma on the same network.
Right.
They usually split because those are the two biggest brands. Now, obviously, the matchups could dictate some different things. Obviously, like TCU, for example, last year, stuff like that. But we'll see. We'll see what the slots are come Monday. But hopefully UCF gets better slots because like I said, it's been underwhelming so far.
Yeah. Well, in defense of that, Thursday night against Kent State. Okay. Boise State, kind of an intersectional matchup.
Well, and I think Boise's brand has been hurt by the Mountain West exclusive deal with FS. Basically it's FS1 and CBS Sports.
Well, they also got hurt by the fact that they got absolutely liquidated by Washington the previous.
Well, and again, they're going head to head against Texas, Alabama, which was a monster game.
That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, So you're not going to get any residuals off of that. All right. Well, nonetheless, for UCF Villanova, Military Appreciation Day, by the way.
Drew Felios will be calling it with Forrest Connolly on ESPN.
Yep. Formerly of Bright House Sports Network.
Oh, yeah.
R.I.P.
Those good days.
6:30 p.m. At FBC Mortgage Stadium. UCF against Villanova. Once again, much to Eric's chagrin, Jay Wright not in attendance. All right.
Does it help that I called the UCF Villanova softball regional game? It's a rematch of the softball regionals where.
All right, maybe award-winning caller of Games in Question, Eric Lopez, will.
Can we bring out like Jada Cody as an honorary captain? She had 2 home runs against Villanova.
Steve, we get Steve Lapis out. Yeah, Steve Lapis. Look, listen. I'd really like, as an erstwhile New Jersey Nets fan, I really would like to meet Kerry Kittles. Okay, just saying.
That's
nice player.
That's almost as unique as a Derek Coleman.
That's throwing it back.
Listen, I get it.
Kyle's going to dip out here. The student of the game, the SOT.
He's got a busy doubleheader. He's got UCF Villanova, and he's got Jaguars, Chiefs, NFL Sunday.
Listen, it's been a busy time for Kyle Nash, and you got to get on his podcast, ladies and gentlemen, because the NFL talk is real. And the Jags work you've been doing has been fantastic.
I appreciate it, man. Hey, listen, you know whose work was fantastic? Calvin Ridley's. That's why I wrote about him this past Sunday on the Jaguar Report. I'm just saying.
Jags, odds-on favorite to make the playoffs right now after 1 week?
Oh, yeah. Certainly. I mean, they have been since the beginning of the year. So, I don't have them at 13 wins. I'm not a homer, but, they're
win the division?
Yes.
Okay.
AFC title game preview Sunday?
No.
No.
All right. Well,
AFC divisional preview on Sunday?
Listen, man. All I'll say is I'd say my bracket looks pretty bad right now based on how week 1 happened, so I won't delve into that.
1 week. Just promise us you'll spare us 20 minutes on the night shift post game before you head out to Jacksonville.
Oh yeah, no, that was going to happen anyway. Please, why don't you ask me to breathe oxygen, Elo? Damn.
All right, we will.
Thanks, Kyle.
Please.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, let's get Bryson and Nick in here to talk a little soccer and volleyball. And I want to start with the events that happened tonight. And
for the
Bryce
record, Jeff, no scissors were ever held. I held my tongue until now.
Yeah,
I got back. No scissors were held.
Yeah, nice job trying to clean up that mess. Okay, nice try, Bryson. We all know the truth. Let's talk UCF women's soccer. Because tonight, as we mentioned earlier, the answer to the trivia question, which UCF team was the first to play in a Big 12 competition and the first to win a Big 12 event? That's your UCF women's soccer team, 4-2 over West Virginia. They jumped out real quick. I was catching a little bit of it. 3-1, let one back, caught a couple breaks. That's a pretty high-octane West Virginia team. They caught an own goal to wrap it up. And Terry Mahajer gave the team the game ball afterwards for that very event. But Bryson, and Eric too, just a real quick breakdown of what got the job done. It was it was really we saw some real talent on this team start to come to fruition. No,
we definitely have. I will say this, they actually ended up, West Virginia got ahead early on 1-0. Coach Tiff mentioned that was the first time West Virginia had gotten in their box all day. So the fact that they got the early goal was unfortunate, but they battled back in what I think was honestly an amazing example of attacking so far. Coach Tiff even went to call it the team's best performance of the season after we talked to her after the game. And all the goal scorers that we've seen so far this season got one after the game. Ellie Moreno, who, by the way, scored her 5th goal of the season tonight to tie her season best. She has never had more than 5 goals in her UCF career, and she's already gotten 5 in the first 6 matches this year. Season's only about halfway over, and she's already there. Mm-hmm. Amazing to see the scoring ability out of her so far. Diana Martin picked up another goal. Her connection with Ellie was amazing to watch, and she had a really great one-on-one opportunity with an amazing assist from Talia Gabara. And Chloe Netzel, the beauty of the kicks we've seen out of her. She curled one into the goal to put them up 3-1. And I think from a pure kicking perspective, Chloe is probably the best scorer on the team in terms of that. So to see this kind of 3-headed offensive monster form with UCF women's soccer is, I think, very nice to see, considering they had to replace somebody like Kristen Scott.
Nick, you were at the game there for us. You caught the action. I think one of the things that's always a concern in every sport with UCF moving into the Big 12 is the speed difference, right?
Yeah,
the speed difference. That's where everyone says, "Oh, it's the speed." Based on what you saw, because I was watching the game on TV a little bit, but you were there. Was there that much of a difference?
Yeah, that's actually the correct thought to have. They are very quick. Like, full disclosure, I was there. It was sports club day, so I was there with my running club teammates. They could not believe how fast West Virginia was. Their strikers were beating them. They put a lot of pressure on the defense, but credit to the defense that they were able to get it out. So I guess to sum it up, yes, there is quite a big difference in speed in conferences, but I think UCF should have no problem keeping up with it. I think they're well conditioned, and obviously that shows by them getting the big win tonight.
Elo UCF is now right. Elo UCF is now 5-2. After that 500 start, they've won 3 in a row now against South Florida FAU. This was a big confidence booster, I think, for them at home. But now, what does this mean for the remainder of the schedule right now? Because they're still outside the top 25. Not that matters too much, but it's a nice little feather to have in your cap. And they have Houston coming up, which is a pretty familiar opponent for them in 1 week. Do you see this as an indicator of positive things to come?
Yeah,
or are we reading too much into it?
Well, it's a weird match because West Virginia, who's the defending Big 12 tournament champions, there's something going on over there. They benched their Big 12 goalkeeper of the year, Keza Macy, She didn't start the match. She came in the second half. They started a kid, Mackenzie Smith, who made her first start. It was very bizarre with that. And
but UCF, a weird move.
I've never seen that before. Even like I was listening to the broadcast like you were. Evan West, it was obviously does a great job. It's caught off guard. But UCF, the thing that impressed me was Ellie Moreno has stepped up her game offensively. It seems her and Diana Martin. So they're starting to score. I still worry about defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany, I know Coach Tiff told us a little while ago that, Georgia Eaton Collins is a player they've kind of struggled to replace. But it's a big win. UCF's 36 in the RPI. Their schedule, they got Houston, who they're familiar with. Then they host Kansas. It's going to get tougher on the second half of the conference schedule. So it's important for them to get off to a good start. What stinks is if UCF would have held on against Georgia, that Georgia's 20 in the RPI. Imagine if they have that right now in the resume. But the good news is because you're in the Big 12, you will have more opportunities to get quality results on that. So they're playing well. And in fact, Bryson had a chance to talk to Tiffany Roberts-Sahadak right after the match, and we have it for you. Let's hear forget what I think. What does Coach Tiff think? She's more important than me anyway. Let's hear it from Coach Sahadak.
First Big 12 game in our athletic department, so I'm honored. The team is honored to put us on the map tonight, and even though it was like a big game tonight, just entering the Big 12, we talked about still one game at a time, so it didn't feel so big, and just getting it done in the 90 minutes and not worrying about any history or anything. We could deal with the history later and celebrate later. So I'm just proud that they got it done in the 90 minutes, and it was a full team effort, both attacking and defending. So just all around probably our best performance of the season.
All right. That is Coach Sahadak joining us there, and fitting that in UCF's first ever Big 12 conference game in any sport, women's soccer delivers a victory. I feel like that's apropos. The most traditional history of UCF is women's soccer. 10 years ago, they were the first program to win a conference title in the American. Maybe they do the same this year in the Big 12. We'll see. But it's a good start to beat West Virginia at home. And I think, that's going to be a theme is win your home matches, try to steal some on the road. We'll see, but it's a good start for them.
And to quote Andy Seeley, it's better than a loss.
This is true.
It's better than a loss. Elsewhere tonight, volleyball was up at Purdue. They got a tough weekend for them. They played Purdue. They started with Purdue at Purdue, then they have Illinois. They lost in 3 to Purdue tonight. And Purdue, listen, Purdue's good.
They're number 17 in the country.
That's legit. That's a legit team. 25-15, 25-19, 25-22. UCF falls in this match. Emily Wilson led UCF with 10 kills. Ava Harmer had 9. Chloe Ciccone for
Ciccone. Yeah, she's a star. She's legit.
Sorry, Chloe. If she happens to be listening, she had 17 kills and 3 aces on the night. Well, you're going to learn eventually, right? I mean, UCF got held to negative percentage in the first set, picked it back up in the second at 256, 171, but Purdue hit 423, 385, 373, and just did kind of what Purdue does. And we were expecting this to happen. But let's talk about pick it up against the next match, Illinois, too, Bryson, because this is Illinois is a little bit closer to the field, right?
Yeah. The thing that kills me though is I was watching the matchup. And you can't see it, but I had the game going on behind me while the other guys.
I can tell you were ripping your hair off.
And
I told you to put the scissors down.
21-18 and 22-19.
No, they were up 17-11, Bryson. They were up 17-11.
And then they ended the game on Purdue ended the game on a 6-point run. UCF could have gotten a set on them, but just couldn't close the deal. That's why my hair looked like it was probably about to fall off, because I was seeing this and I'm like, oh my gosh, we could have a set, but instead it's going to be a sweep.
Well, this is the thing. This is where the youth. We talked about the youth. They came out nervous in that first set. You could tell if you watched the match. It was on Big Ten Network. They came out nervous. It took them a while to get adjusted.
Felt like an NCAA Sweet 16.
Yeah, I mean, this is big. I mean, and Purdue has so many weapons, even though they're young, but they got tremendous talent. And I think this will be a good test. This is a good barometer for UCF because they're going to see a lot of this when they get into Big 12 play, especially the second half of that conference play. So they played well in the third set. I mentioned they were up 17-11, but then Purdue blitzed them with a 13-4 run, I think, to close the set and win it in straight. Interesting to see how they come back against Illinois, which is more of a bottom team in the Big Ten. Right. They lost in 5 sets to USC, which is why the match started a little later on a Thursday night. But this is a learning weekend. And I think one of the things that Coach Jenny Maurer I talked to after last weekend, teams are attacking them defensively. What they're doing is they're trying to go pin to pin against them. And they're trying to hit away from Hansen and Dillon, and really attacking Ava, who's the freshman at the net. And teams are attacking them. And I think one of the things that Ava is going to learn, she's going to be a great player. But I've talked to Aaron Campbell, who's doing the analyst this year for UCF. Her release of her shot is still a little slow. It's just a hair slow. And when you're playing the Purdues of the world, that shows. Now the speed will pick up as she gets more experience, but that's why you got to play these matches. So you hope that you split here and take the Illinois match before you start the conference at Cincinnati. But this is a team that's still growing. And, I asked Jenny Maurer after the North Texas match, what does she learn about this team at this point?
Just how adaptable they are, because as much as you can watch on film an opponent who's very different than you, it's another thing. You can't really turn your team into a bunch of chameleons and make them something that they're not, right? So it's been great with them embracing, really diving into the film, watching the film, realizing that they can't just get it all from us verbally and then make those adjustments, but walking through that and making those adaptations. I'm most impressed by our ability to do that. We took a little bit long today, but we still did it. And that's something to be said about some very different opponents.
All right, that was Jenny Maurer talking about the adaptability. And I think you saw that in the third set. They played well in the third set. They didn't close it. Again, experience is a thing. I mean, there's a reason why McKenna Melville was a 5-time All-American. She knew how to close sets. She was a great two-way player. UCF doesn't have that right now. So this is a learning curve for them, but they're going to be fine. Purdue's a great team. That's the best team they've played by far on the schedule, and I think this will help them get ready when they play the Texas and the BYUs of the world in the Big 12 in the Iowa States.
I'm going to be really interested to see how they come out against Illinois tomorrow, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Do they? We've said this before in other sports, right, Eric? Don't let Purdue beat you twice.
Right, that's the challenge of the young team, right? Like even Jenny mentioned to me after the North Texas match, they were kind of feast or famine. Played awesome in the first set, played down in the second and third set, came back. That's part of the youth of this group. You're going to have some ups and downs, so we'll see. By the way, this could be historic for the program. They're on twice on Big Ten Network. Good chance this will be one of these matches will be the most watched UCF volleyball game on linear television history. We'll see. They play at Baylor later this year on ESPN2. That might challenge it. But this is great exposure for the program. The last time, too, credit to you, Jeff, you remembered. I don't remember, even though I sat next to Tiffany Green doing stats. UCF Cincinnati, 2019 AAC title game on ESPNU was the last time they were on television. Before that, you got to go back years when they played in a tournament in Austin, Texas that aired on the Longhorn Network.
Broadcaster shouted that out on the Big Ten Network, actually.
Right.
What they say?
Now they have. I remember way back when we were in college. I remember UCF played Florida State, but that was on Sun Sports. That was regional sports network, so that wasn't a national sports network at all. By the way, UCF was receiving votes in the most recent top 25. They were just 3 spots out of the top 25. Washington and UCLA ahead of them outside of the top 25. So come back against Illinois. Could probably still stick around there. Then who knows what happens. So remember how we had to lobby to get UCF into the top 25, Eric, so hard, and then it finally happened all those years ago, and now they're knocking on the door.
Let's let these kids play. Let's just let them play.
But I'm just saying this is the.
It's what FSU. I don't think UCF has done that since the college volleyball was like a best of 3.
I'm just saying that Big 12 tag matters in the Olympic sports, man.
But they got to win some matches in the Big 12. They got to take care of Illinois.
Right. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying
tonight was a big opportunity. If they would have, they could have done some noise there. But again, it's early. One match.
It's a tough break anyway. All right, now. Coming up on Friday, men's soccer. They got a big one here, boy. Let me tell you. This is one where, okay, folks, when the kids come out of school, go grab yourself some dinner, head down to the UCF soccer complex, because your unbeaten UCF men's soccer team faces West Virginia. 4-0-1 are UCF at the moment. They took care of Brown 2-0 over the weekend, but now they play West Virginia. This is a top 5 matchup in the country. West Virginia is number 4 in the country. Remember, we're in the Sun Belt in men's soccer. UCF is number 5. 7 o'clock kick on ESPN Plus at the UCF Soccer Complex on Friday night. Eric Lopez, this season for men's soccer has gotten a violent shove into Sirius the last few weeks, and now we're going to see how they stack up against another top-ranked team. Now they played FIU, who is number 11, back on the 5th. That was their most recent top 25 game. Remember, they were up 2-0 with 7 minutes to go and ended up snatching a draw out of that game. Of course, UCF did defeat Clemson 2-1 in the opener. Clemson was ranked in the top 10, but a chance to get a second top 10 victory here against the team in your conference to start the conference season, Eric.
Top 5 matchup, first ever, held at the UCF Soccer Complex.
This is big, man.
It's huge. You could argue this is the biggest non-football sporting event of the fall. We'll see how the rest of the sports plays out. Both teams in the top 5 RPI. This is the opener for the Sun Belt. A lot of people are going to be watching this game. I think the winner, if there's a winner in this game, if a clear winner, the winner of this game may get some first place votes in the next week's poll. UCF's never been ranked number 1. And this will be a big challenge. I think this is too, when UCF moved to the Sun Belt, this is like the perfect scenario, right? Like, I think, Jeff, we've talked about West Virginia would be the perfect rival in a lot of ways because they're both in the Big 12 and both have delivered. West Virginia, by the way, best defense in the country. Has only given up 1 goal in 5 matches this year.
Yep, they're undefeated and untied, 5-0.
So this will be a challenge for UCF and Luca Dorado and company from that standpoint. I think they're going to see a lot of similarities to what they actually saw with Brown, where Brown played a lot of guys back and jammed the box. But this will be a challenge. But UCF's has shown this year so far, outside of those 6 minutes against FIU, that they are strong defensively, and they're deep on the defensive side themselves. So it's a big match. There's some talk that maybe this could set a record attendance for a UCF men's soccer game. We will see. I asked Coach Calabrese about this matchup after the win against Brown, and here's what he had to say about the West Virginia match.
What's it like now? This is going to be a historic week to start Sunbelt play against a really good West Virginia team.
Yeah, I think it's a big game. That's the other Big 12 conference member, so it's kind of the Big 12 conference championship in one game. But it's good to now get into conference play to conclude our non-conference play, and to be undefeated at this point is great. And then more important than that, though that's really important, is now we really have learned a lot about our team. We'll take this win, we'll analyze it, we'll get better from it, and we'll be even more prepared for West Virginia now.
All right, that's Coach Calabrese. I mean, this is big. This is big, and it's a big match for UCF because you look at UCF's schedule, Jeff. Host West Virginia, number 4 in the country, Friday. Next week, they go to number 2 Marshall. Then after that, they're going to top 20 Kentucky, who is the preseason favorite. So this is a big match for UCF. Bryson asked me, what does this mean? I think by the end of the month, Jeff, we're going to know, is this team a conference title contender? Are they a national seed contender? Are they a college cup contender?
Yeah.
All of that will be addressed in this first half. And this is the thing. We've talked a lot about the Sun Belt, the year in the American. The Sun Belt's off to a great start this year with James Madison, who's in the top 10. You look at the unofficial RPIs, the ACC's number 1, which they always are. They're the top conference in men's soccer. Pac-12 is slightly right now number 2. Remember, they're going to disappear in a year. Sun Belt number 3. Sun Belt number 3.
4 of the top 10 in the coaches poll, Eric, are Sun Belt teams: Marshall, West Virginia, UCF, and you mentioned James Madison, who is off to a very good start. They came in 9th this week.
Yeah.
So And I think that was unexpected too. Like that start from, I mean, they were good, but they were, I don't think they were.
Well, I think JMU and UCF has certainly helped the league. It's surprised. Yeah. But this is huge because we've talked before the season. How would the fans, would they catch on to UCF not being in the Big 12, being in the Sun Belt? A match like this helps without question. Right. Wouldn't you agree with that, Nick and Bryson? The casual people are interested in this.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, so yeah, I think they're definitely promoting the heck out of this matchup, and rightfully so. I mean, because when you initially going into this season, we thought the marquee conference matchups were both going to be on the road and back-to-back at that, with Marshall, who's number 2, and then Kentucky, which already, I mean, that's a nuts schedule back-to-back. But now you throw in number 4 West Virginia before that, and this is a 3-game gauntlet for this team to give them a real test to really get them to prove their mettle. But I also would definitely want to caution, because what was their Achilles heel last year? The Achilles heel last year for men's soccer was they got wins against some big teams like FIU and a ranked Charlotte, but they also lost some pretty bad games to FAU and the UAB. The key, I think, is going to be is if you do well in these games, say you win 2 of them, or win all 3 of them, who knows? If you got to go into those matchups against like Southern, Old Dominion, and Coastal, you got to make sure you stay on your guard. But that's obviously looking pretty far ahead into that. The fact that this
the difference is Scott Calabrese acknowledged this when we talked to him before the year, and even again, this team is deeper than they've been the last couple of years, especially on the back row, which he admits caught up with them, and that's why I think they faded last year. Mm-hmm. I think this team is deeper on the back line. They have tremendous talent in the midfield. They have balanced offense, and they have one of the best weapons in the country in Luca Dorado. This is huge. They had a really good crowd, Jeff, for the Brown match, which shocked me. It shocked me because it's going head-to-head against football, the UCF football game. I didn't expect anybody to be there, and they had a good crowd there. And I think this ranking helps. You know, I asked Calabrese, does rankings matter? They downplay it. They understand, hey, look, you can't, that doesn't matter to feel, but it does help from a publicity standpoint, from a marketing standpoint. And I think you're going to get casual people now. They're going to come out to these matches, and I expect a great crowd on Friday night. I think you're going to have a lot of UCF athletes there supporting, which they've done. Yep. And it's going to be a great atmosphere, and we'll see how the match plays out. I think this is a huge match because I think this will help UCF men's soccer continue to grow a following and not get lost with the other sports who are in the Big 12 and they're not. This is huge.
Yeah, you mentioned promoting this as probably helps with people promoting this as the Big 12, kind of the Big 12 men's soccer championship with this US matchup. Yeah.
Now, by the way, you mentioned, Eric, the fact that the Sun Belt is what it is, and we talked actually earlier this week with Anderson Rosa from UCF. Let's hear from Anderson real quick on his thoughts on how the mere fact of being in the Sun Belt, with no Big 12, really helps UCF's overall profile.
Before, we were the guys to beat in the conference, the AAC. So we were already the big guys. Now we come to a new conference with the big teams in there. So we'll see. I mean, don't take UCF for granted, and we will be there to beat the big guys.
That was Anderson Rosa. By the way, shout out to Anderson because he was my son's coach when he went to UCF soccer camp this summer. Heck of a coach. Anderson Rosa. He's going to be a very good coach, by the way. So
nice.
I had to get that one in. So
a great player, but he's had a great career.
Yes,
here at UCF from a defense standpoint, and he talked about in that sound you heard. He's played with Luca Dorado going back to like the high school days. They've known each other, so those two have led this team, and I think they're motivated. They were not happy how they ended things in the American. It was a tough league, and I think they're learning from that. Should be
left some things on the table. Last year.
Left some things on the table. And like I said, I really like some of the pieces that Scott's added. Remember this, they have 14 freshmen on this roster, too. This is a nucleus. You're going to lose some pieces here and there, but this is a nucleus you're going to have here for the next few years in the Sun Belt.
Eric, you mentioned the American. I would like to wager that even though I think the American is the deeper men's soccer conference because of just how big it is, I think the Sun Belt Conference has the better teams. I mean, we have Marshall, West Virginia, James Madison, Kentucky. I think all four of those teams could probably beat most of the American.
They might flip it on the American. Last year, the American had 5 bids into the tournament. That was the second most behind the ACC. The Sun Belt has a chance to do that again, do that this year and do what the American did last year. That's true.
Yeah. All right. Last little bit, by the way, kickoff set for, what was it again? 6:30 on Friday?
7, baby. 7 prime time. Austin David, Ryan Davis on the call on ESPN Plus. They won the lottery.
Yep. Number 5, UCF. Number 4, West Virginia. That's going to be a good one. All right. Last bit before we go. We have ourselves, we can send the white smoke up from the chimney. We have a UCF Athletics Hall of Fame class of 2023. What a class it is. First of all, we were inducting a team this year. 2007 National Championship UCF cheerleading team. 2003 team's already in. This is the 2007 team that got it. Posthumously, Dr. John Hitt is entering the Hall of Fame. Kyle Bono. He and his brother Ryan played baseball together. Kyle was the pitcher. Ryan was the catcher. Kyle's getting in. Played also briefly with the Boston Red Sox. Is still is in town. Of course, you may have seen this on social media because Terry Mahaja broke this to him. Mark Daniels is at long last going to be a Hall of Famer. Been here since 1994. Amazing. 30 years, Mark. Well deserved. Gene McDowell is getting into the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame. Again, another posthumous induction. Of course, we could say basically the father of UCF football as we know it. From the volleyball side, Delana Sardin. For only 3-time AVCA All-American in program history prior to McKenna Melville. Helped UCF win their first conference championship in 10 years back in 2014. And someone who you know pretty doggone well, Eric Lopez, Shelby Turnier, is in the is going into the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame as well. It's listed here. She's listed as the most decorated softball player in UCF history. First National Player of the Week alongside Stephanie Best, and second night to earn the NFCA Week National Player of the Week award. Top 10 finalist for National Player of the Year. Just I've never seen a less hittable pitcher in baseball or softball than Shelby Turner. Amazing. Eric, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on the class. There have been some, obviously we've talked about this before on the site. There have been some changes here. Yeah. But I think that overall this is obviously an excellent class and righted some historical quirks, shall we say.
Well, yeah, I mean, McDowell obviously has been a polarizing topic over the years because of the cell scandal that ended his coaching career. That was kind of, quote, a felony, and by rule, they didn't allow that in the Hall of Fame. That was always a disputed topic. Ironically, John Hitt was kind of involved from being the president of the school because he had a say on all that. But they've kind of, I think, changed some wordings and rules from what I understand on that, and they get him in. And I think it's fitting that you put him in as UCF enters the first year of the Big 12. I think it's very fitting you have Gene McDowell, John Hitt, Mark Daniels in your Hall of Fame class on the first year of the Big 12 for UCF athletics. Because without John Hitt, Jeff, you would agree with this. Without John Hitt, UCF's not in the Big 12 right now. I mean, He had a big involvement. He was very big on athletics, helped push the growth of not only the university from an academic standpoint, but also from an athletic standpoint.
And I think from a financial standpoint.
Absolutely, 100%. Gene McDowell, you mentioned him and what he did with the program and helping it get to that Division I level.
Not just that, but also saved the program from financial ruin.
Right.
When he came here. I mean, people, I think everyone forgets, the fairy tale of UCF football going from Division III to the Big 12. Folks, it's quite possible none of this could have happened in the mid-'80s had it not been for Gene McDowell saving the program financially that was on the brink of being shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's fitting that those two get into this class. And then Mark Daniels has been the soundtrack for UCF athletics since the mid-'90s. When I got to UCF, that's who I listened to. Mm-hmm. And not only from a broadcast standpoint, But from a sports talk standpoint, because when I got here, Jeff, you know this, you got here at the same time I did as a student. UCF was not it was not a topic in the local scene. The newspapers, there was a lot of focus on Florida State, Miami, and the Magic. There was hardly.
We were thrilled when UCF got mentioned.
Right. And Mark was a big, I think, influencer in that, doing with his drive time radio show and things like that, and then doing the broadcast for football, basketball, baseball in the soundtrack. So I think in a lot of ways it's fitting that he gets to be a part of this class in this first year of the Big 12. Then you have the other ones. You know, Kyle Bono was kind of, you know, Bono and Fox was kind of like that tier, but slightly below Pope and Arnold in 2004. They were tremendous. And so it's fitting that Bono gets in. Delana Sarden, you mentioned it. You can make the argument prior to McKenna Melville that Delana Sarden has been the UCF volleyball's best player since 2005 for the program. If you go since post Jenny Frank, Delana Sarden's been the best player until McKenna Melville came around.
After Jenny Frank, Delana had the belt.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you mentioned it, 3-time, got him to the conference championship, the NCAA tournament in 2014, first time in 11 years. The cheerleading, their second national title in 2007 gets in. That speaks for itself. Second national title team that gets inducted, I believe. The 2003 team got inducted years ago.
Correct.
And then Shelby Turnier, when you discussed any list you discussed UCF softball when it comes to the Mount Rushmores, who's the greatest player ever, who's the greatest pitcher ever, who has transcended UCF softball, Shelby Turnier is on that short list on all those categories. It is fitting that she is in, and it's the perfect player. I mean, she is arguably the best player in softball history, and when you consider her college and pro career. So very happy that she gets inducted as well, joining her former teammate, Mackenzie Audis, Allison Kime, Stephanie Best, and Natalie Lamb, building that softball brand. So I like the fact that it was a deep class, 7 people. They didn't just say, hey, we got to go with 5. You know, I'm glad that they put in, if you're going to put in administrators and coaches, I don't like it being at the expense of athletes, and they did not do that in this case, which I like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's almost fitting, I think, that you have G. McDowell, who saved the program, and then you have John Hitt, who arguably, you know, was able to propel it into the stars when you look at all the stuff he did during his tenure from 1992 to 2008. I was looking through we're writing something up on this, and I saw that under his tenure, the UCF built the Nicholson Fieldhouse, first indoor practice facility in the state of Florida, FBC Mortgage Stadium, Addition Arena, John Uliano Park, the softball complex, the Plex, and also was able to get.
By the way, built 2 softball stadiums, I should say.
Yeah, 2 softball stadiums. That's right. And then at the very end of his tenure, near the end of it, he helped get UCF tennis into the USTA national campus, which arguably really raised its profile at the time. The impact that John Hitt's had just on athletics, never mind just the university in general, which is a whole other conversation, but just in athletics is quite amazing to see what UCF was pre John Hitt and post John Hitt. So while G. McDowell saved it, John Hitt just, you know, took it and supercharged it.
And like President Hitt, you know, for all that, you know, he did obviously for the university, it's not here without, you know, his vision. I think he saw how big not just UCF sports could be, but UCF as an institution. But he knew that for UCF to get to where he envisioned it to be, he had to go all in on sports because, you know, and I think this is true. We've heard this before, right, guys? Sports is the front door to every university. Mm-hmm. And he was absolutely right. Going in on sports and investing in football and getting UCF to the point where it could be a competitive Division I institution.
He got him into
I'm only sad that, you know, that both John Hitt and Gene McDowell couldn't be here to take this honor in person. I think those of us who are the old hats, you know, it's a bummer that they couldn't be here they couldn't be there to accept it in person because, you know, they both deserve it. They both absolutely deserve it. And congratulations. I'm looking forward to the I think it's going to be, Eric, I don't know about you. I think this is going to be one of the more emotional ceremonies.
It'll be very emotional. It's going to be very fascinating because I've gone to 4 of these. Mark Daniels has been the MC of all of them.
Yeah.
Well, he's getting inducted. So who's that? Is he emceeing himself?
Is Mark going to induct himself?
I don't know.
Need to ask. I got to ask him this on Saturday. I was like, Mark, are you going to induct yourself?
Seriously, Jeff, that's your assignment.
If he does, hey, he deserves it.
I mean, I'm just saying. I don't know what's going to happen.
I can't wait for his speech, man. I can't wait to hear his speech.
I think that's something me too.
Proud graduate, by the way, Eric Lopez of Piper High School in Sunrise.
Ooh, there you go. So that's going to be interesting. That's November 10th when the ceremony will take place. Then they'll be honored at some point during the football game against Oklahoma State. Jeff, you get to introduce them, right? That's part of your deal, the Hall of Fame, which is going to be interesting because Mark's going to be in the booth in theory.
Yeah, he's in the booth right next. In fact, the only thing separating the two of us is a pane of glass. Like between the two of us, like he's in the radio booth right next to me.
I can't wait to see what you guys come up with that one because they obviously surprised him in the pregame show of the Kent State game. That's when they broke the news. We'll see what you guys come up with that weekend. That's
I know it's going to be good. I have no insight into it, but I know Timmy and Alex and Jimmy, they'll have something. There's something pretty cool planned. I know they will. So, all right. That's going to do it for us here on the Night Shift podcast. Another great show, guys. Man, we'll get, thanks to Kyle. Unfortunately, Drew couldn't make it, but shout out to Statboy Drew on Twitter. Bryson, it's Bryson Turner. Nick Porcelli 2. Eric Lopez Elo. You can follow me at Jeff_Sharon. Follow us collectively at UCF Banneret_SBN. blackandgoldbanneret.com is the site where you can find all of our latest content from not just football, from all UCF sports. Bryson and Nick are going to have another nightcap coming up at the end of the weekend, recapping everything. And of course, Kyle will be following the football game as well. We'll have plenty of preview content coming up also tomorrow, leading into Saturday. Follow us on social media as well. Facebook.com/blackandgoldbanneret. We're on Threads at Black and Gold Banneret. Check us out there. Also Instagram, Black and Gold Banneret. And what am I missing? The YouTube channel. Look for Black and Gold Banneret as well on YouTube, where we have all our latest stuff. By the way, huge thanks to Bryson and Nick for hustling out there in the heat and the rain. This is the worst time of year for
Was it really raining at soccer there? Wow.
It was a little bit, right?
Drops, but you could really ignore it. It was fine.
Good crowd out there. Good crowd.
Great crowd.
821 was the final number on the thing. It was a solid environment, though I will say
we got to push it up over 1,000 though, man.
Yeah.
We got to push it.
We're going to get there.
I will say I did feel the humidity a little bit during post game where I spoke to both Diana Martin and Ellie Moreno, which you can catch on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel.
All right. So for all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret and the Night Shift podcast, my name is Jeff Sharon. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy football against Villanova on Saturday. Enjoy, and we will see you at men's soccer Friday night. UCF against West Virginia, number 4 against number 5 in the country. We expect you to be there. We will be there for Scott Calabrese and his guys as they take on the Mountaineers. Until then, enjoy, and we will see you next week.